And welcome in to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a great Monday as we get closer and closer. I mean, this month, ladies and gentlemen, we will have some college football as you're trying to struggle through the summer. I've been watching the Olympics a little bit. I tell you what, my timeline went off like crazy this morning when the women's soccer team lost to Canada. I had people tweeting at me about the Canadian national anthem. Man, that women's soccer team has pissed a lot of people off. That's the only term that I can use, man. Anyway, with that, not a good start for the Americans there, but American women's basketball team, they did win last night. The men play tonight against Spain. We'll see how that works out for them. Hopefully they don't drop. I mean, they've lost to Australia. They've lost to, who else did they lose to? They lost to France in the qualifying round. Not good, not good. We'll see if they can bounce back tonight. Kevin Durant and the boys getting something done there. All right. Enough Olympics talk there. We're going to talk some college football today. I've got in my hands the projections from the folks at 247 Sports about projected win totals for SEC teams. We'll get into that, but I got to start with a story that came out today, and it was just in our Fox Sports update there, that Quinn Ewers, the number one rated overall quarterback, number one prospect in the country, recruited by every single program basically in the country, has said, you know what? I'm not going to go to school my senior year of high school. As a 17-year-old, I am going to go on into college, and at Ohio State, I'm going to enroll early. 6'3", 206 pounds, supposedly is the next best thing as far as quarterbacks go. I don't know how great he's going to play. We haven't seen him on a college field yet. Here's the interesting thing about this, though. According to several reports, he did this because of NIL money. Yes, this is one of the first that we're going to see with this, where if a junior in high school decides, hey, I'm going to commit and I'm ready to go, and I want to head on into college, no, it's not to get there early for that. It's to get paid. Cashing in, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's happening here. So I want to open up the phone lines on this. Are you okay with this? I mean, in theory, I didn't really think about this from the long-standing point here when we were talking about the NIL. But now that you see this, you're like, wait a minute, this kid's in high school. He's giving up his senior year, and he's going to go up to Ohio State. There's probably little or no chance he's going to start, I wouldn't think, unless he is the absolute, LeBron James of high school football. But he's going to go up to Ohio State and enroll early, and basically because of NIL money. That's the first thing we're going to get into today here on the Rundown. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you would like to get involved with the show. This guy is apparently, in 2 seasons as a starter at South Lake High School, threw for 6,400 yards, 73 touchdowns, and he missed some time last year with an injury. They did not win the state title, though. There's that. So, Ewers, according to 247 Sports, already has quite the following due to his high school rankings. Let's head out to the phones, 803-978-1832. And good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
Hey, Rob, about that quarterback going to Ohio State.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's for the money for one bit.
Well, I mean, it's for the reports say that's basically part of it. What do
Well,
you think it's about?
I think there's 2 freshman quarterbacks up there that's going to grab a hold of that job, and then he was going to get there next year and not play.
Maybe so, but he has the option. He has the option of with that, he could go somewhere else. I mean, guys change programs all the time. We interviewed Phil Dracovic a couple weeks ago, and he point blank said, when I left Notre Dame, I tried to find the spot where I could play. And this guy doesn't want to go to Texas. I mean, I know going to Ohio State is great and all, but wow. I mean, you think you want to try to play there.
Well, when he committed, he said he wanted to play for championships. That's why he didn't go to Texas.
Good point, sir. Good point.
I mean,
you don't win very many of those there.
But now with 3 freshman 5-star quarterbacks, which 2 leave?
Well, is it going to be C.J. Stroud, Jack Miller, or Kyle McCord? We'll find out.
I mean, it's going to have a ripple effect for them for sure this year.
Well, and where do those guys end up? I mean, because obviously they're highly touted.
Yeah.
And they're going to end up going somewhere. So we'll see how that works out. That's just, it's amazing, though, when you really stop and look at it. And, social media is going to be the king of this. These kids come out, and I say kids, young men have, 75,000 followers on Instagram or whatever it is. And they're in high school, and someone sees that and they, hey, tweet about my restaurant and I'll give you X amount of dollars. I mean, that's the kind of things that can happen now. So
yeah, I just think with some of these deals, some of these players are signed, these companies aren't going to see any return on their investment, and they're going to eventually say it's not worth it.
Well, but
I could see them going to like a McDonald's, or a lot of them are going to Bojangles, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these, locally owned businesses, I just don't see it lasting long.
Well, I think that it'll correct itself. I think that I think that there'll be some people will overpay at first, and then it'll come back, and it's like, man, I spent this much money, and this is my return on it. We'll know in 2 years if it's to a point where I think it's going to be eventually your big name players, your quarterbacks, your running backs, and guys. And I use Christian Wilkins as an example up at Clemson. When he was there, he would have got a ton of NIL money because he had that personality that brought people in with him. And, and you could use the same thing with Clowney down at South Carolina. Guys like that will get money, but then again, your offensive linemen and guys like that, probably not so much.
But how is that NIL money going to affect the player during the season? Say a coach sees a player, he's more worried about his paycheck than he is about the next game. I mean, Nick Saban is not going to say, oh, I can just live with that. He's going to make a change.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, it all comes down to like a risk assessment when it comes down to this. It's like, hey, do you think this guy is going to be the guy that goes? And we could use Trevor Lawrence from last season. We knew that unless Trevor Lawrence was hurt, he was going to be the quarterback for Clemson. Now, if something happens and a guy gets hurt, I wonder if that's in the contract that they can get out of it. I don't know. We shall see.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. 803-978-1832, talking about the young man from Texas, Mr. Quinn Ewers, who's decided that I'm going to skip my high school senior season. I don't need to play my senior season. I can get some NIL money, go on up to Ohio State and get that money. That's a big part of it. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Jerome brings up a good point about the Clemson player what is it? Fred Jackson, I believe his name is. I've got it in my notes, but had some issues and ended up getting arrested. I wonder how that's going to work out. We'll see how that goes. Not good, man, when you injure somebody driving that fast. Taco Online says Gamecock long snapper has Brinks trucks backing up to his front yard. Very good take, sir. And Randall says, do you blame the kid? No. I mean, let's be honest. When you were 18, whatever, were you go into Ohio State and then go from there. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 as the power flickered here in our building. I don't know what happened, but it kind of throwed everything off for a little. There you go with trying to get our back up here. We'll see how that goes. You never know when you have issues with power and everything else. Kind of crazy. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number. If you'd like to join us here on the Rundown, here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app, as we talk about that today. And we're going to do SEC projections. These came from 247 Sports. Good stuff. Just a moment as we get ourselves squared away on that front. Interesting, some of the numbers that they put up, and we'll get into that momentarily as we roll along this afternoon here on the Rundown. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call as we talk about that. Do you think that's going to work with this young man saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to leave my senior year of high school? Would love to get your comments on that. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you want to join us here on the Rundown. Oh, man. I tell you what. It's so crazy when you have the power flicker like that. It just throws everything off. It really, really does. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Some of the projections for the SEC, very interesting. And these are from 247 Sports, by the way. So we'll get into that momentarily. Later on, we're going to have we had some folks lined up for some interviews this week too, so we'll get into that. Folks online asked me if there was a storm in South Carolina. No, it was the weirdest thing, man. The power just flickered. It was like it was a power surge, and it knocked all my computer stuff offline, knocked off everything. It was a mess. Just kind of threw me off there for a minute. All right, 803-978-1832, SEC projections in just a little bit. You know, we're getting to the point now where it's like this week, fall camp is getting underway. We got to figure out what's the big deal with, you know, each school, whether they're in the ACC or the SEC. We'll work with that too as we get set up here for football season. So there's that. Also, we've got the whole thing with the conference realignment. I think that we're at a point now where it's almost like a wait and see type thing. What's ESPN going to do? What's Fox Sports going to do? And then you have other things too. You know, we're going to get to a point now where we're looking at things from this perspective. I am guilty of this. I admit it. I enjoy the ability to be able to watch whatever game I want on my phone, my computer, whatever. I can watch from wherever. And I can get into all that. But with that, I think the streaming thing is going to be huge. And I think another provider is going to come in. Could it be Yahoo? Could it be Amazon? We shall see. Edwin with a comment online that makes a lot of sense. Does the young man who is from Ohio, who is going to Ohio State, Quinn Ewers, does he possibly go to Ohio State now, sit behind the quarterbacks there, get a jump start on NIL, and then transfer to Texas to play for Sarkisian? Whoa, man, that's some as the world turns type stuff. Yeah, hold on, man. I'll help you out with that, Edwin. Here we go. That's some Yes.
Like sands through the hourglass,
Exactly.
so are the days of our lives.
I mean, that's some soap opera type stuff there, man. When you really stop and look at it, it's some soap opera type stuff, but that might happen. Let's go out to the phones, 803-978-1832. And good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
How's it going, Bluegrass Sports Radio?
What's going on, brother? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Just, chilling. Waiting for football season to kick off.
Spread some of the gospel of Kentucky football, man. What do you got for the show?
All right. So, obviously, you're doing your win totals today.
Yep.
So, it better be 9-3 for Kentucky, or you're going to be wrong.
Are you threatening me about my win totals, sir? These are projected win totals from 247 Sports. My win totals, which I will put on the bookcase of accountability here to my right, will be coming to you about 10 days before the season starts. But I can assure you 9-3 is not what I'm going to have for Kentucky.
Well, it's gonna hurt to be wrong.
Well, we shall see. I don't have a problem being wrong. No problem with all that. What else you got for the program today,
Georgia
sir?
fans did.
Yeah, Georgia has some issues. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So I haven't got to talk about this Texas and Oklahoma coming over, and I know you probably don't want to. You probably talked about it to death.
Yeah, go ahead, man. What you got?
But I'm looking at this as a perspective from the Big 12. If I'm the Big 12 and I still have a vote for this playoff, I'm doing my best to get this 12-team playoff shot down for one reason. You want to go and mess me around by going to the SEC. What we'll do is I'll just make it to where there's a 4-team playoff, and then you guys just beat the heck out of each other, and it won't matter.
Yeah, I think the expansion, I agree with what you're saying, but they are one vote. Now, if they could get folks involved with them and behind them, that sounds like a good idea. But here's the interesting thing with that, though. When it comes to money, people change their tune in a moment. Remember, Texas A&M hated Texas, joined the SEC because of Texas. Apparently, behind closed doors, they may be kicking and screaming, but once it was a thing of, hey, Texas is going to join, they're coming out and, hey, they're going to have the opportunity to play in the SEC. So money always makes the difference, my friend.
It does, but I think with the expanding of the SEC, if the ACC and the Big Ten, they can see this as like a threat to them, because if they get Texas and Oklahoma, what's to say they can't get someone else? Obviously they can't get a bigger team than Texas and Oklahoma, but it just makes the SEC, the balance of power, so big. So I think they could have a shot of convincing them.
Well, we shall see on that front. You're probably right. Now, Randall with a great point online. They are coming to the SEC for wins. Coach Spurrier said last week, Texas can't win the Big 12. They're coming for the money. And the money will be with the SEC. And if money equals power, the SEC will have all of it, basically, in theory, if they get especially the 20-team super conference, or the rumor that's out there for that. Hey, man, I appreciate you calling the show, buddy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, there you go. One more call before we go to break. Welcome to the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah, man.
Hey, it's not just, obviously the fans of Kentucky are going to be high on Kentucky, but I've seen projections for Kentucky that are, to me, a little bit too high, and I'm not seeing it. Can you explain it to me? Because, last season, they had 4 wins. Of those 4 wins, 1 was over the bottom of the West, and the other 3 were the bottom of the East. They almost lost to Vanderbilt.
Right.
I'm just not seeing what they're bringing over this year. They got some NFL coaches coming over, but that's not a proven commodity. NFL coaches don't always win in college football. So what is it that you see?
Okay, well, I can tell you what other people are seeing. And I'm not completely buying into what other people are seeing, but they will tell you, and I do buy into this. Coach Stoops is a good coach. He's made a lot of lemonade out of a lot of lemons up there for a while. I think he's one of the more underrated coaches in the SEC. I'd love to see him at Georgia with the talent that Georgia has, just to see what he could do with that, because he can't get that kind of talent at Kentucky.
Right.
He's trying to build the program there. But I think that defensively they're going to be pretty good. They've got an offensive lineman, I believe, that's projected to be a first, second, third round pick. They've also got Chris Rodriguez, who some people say is one of the best running backs in the SEC. Now, Kentucky's biggest problem, and even the Kentucky apologists will admit this, is that they don't have anybody that can play quarterback. And that's I mean, the game starts, stops, and ends, in my opinion, with your quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback that can go out there and at least make 7-yard outs and throw just basic patterns, you're not going to be worth anything. So until Kentucky can show me, hey, this is what we've got. Now, they had a great season a couple years ago. They had the season with Lynn J. Bowden where they moved him from wide receiver to quarterback. The reason that worked is because they had a different look back there. And until they have something like that or a quarterback that can throw the ball, Kentucky is a 6-6, 7-5, 8-4 team at best. And that's just the way that it is. Until they can show me something, just be honest. It just bugs me. We've got a great defense. Yeah, you do. Look at the 4 teams that played in the college football playoff last year. What did they all have in common? They all had a pretty good quarterback. So you got to have that to succeed at a high level, and Kentucky just doesn't have it.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thank you. All right, quick break. When we come back, we will look at those projections from 247 Sports. And remember, this is going on the bookcase of accountability, which is over here to my right, which is getting kind of full with some of the stuff that's over there. I tell you what, it's going to be fun come December when we take a step back and we look at who's in the playoff and who's not and who said they were going to be at this point of the season. All right, quick break. When we come back, we will have more for you here on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, I don't understand the obsession with Kentucky either. And I know if you're a fan, you got to say what you got to say, and I get that, but you don't have a quarterback. I mean, simple as that. You don't have a quarterback. If I were the Kentucky coach, I would go. There's always a quarterback that slips through the cracks that may have had issues with legal problems or something. I mean, Kentucky needs to find the next Cam Newton is basically what it boils down to. You know, issues with throwing a laptop out a window, whatever it was that got him out of Florida when he was down there as Tebow's backup. Yeah, that's what they need is something like that. Because you can have that strong foundation that they've got, but you don't have a quarterback, nothing. Nothing. Kirby Smart. See, we try to live in the land of what's real. All right. Has anybody seen Kirby Smart make second half adjustments in a game? Just saying. Let's talk about that. I mean, in reality, yes, he gets the guys in there. And as long as things go according to plan, he does all right. When it doesn't, bump, bump, bump. I'm just saying. Now, the Georgia fans will be like, Kirby Smart's the greatest ever. I wouldn't have Kirby Smart. If you told me he could coach my team, it just seems like it's like the best way I could use it is this. You're going to get your hopes up every year with tons of talent, and it's not going to work out for you. It's just the way that it is. Back here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm holding my hand. You hear that? Yeah, we're going to put these on the bookcase of accountability. These are 247 Sports projections for the SEC as far as projected win totals. We'll start with the Vanderbilt Commodores. They've got them at 3 wins. Vanderbilt didn't win a game last year. So just throwing that out there. Vanderbilt did not win a game last year, but We shall see. They've got, of course, the young man at Ken Seals at quarterback. That seems like he's been there forever, so they'll have that. People seem to like Clark Lee. We'll have to see what he can do there, but I'm not so sure on that. Up next, they've got the South Carolina Gamecocks at 3.5. Wow, and they write, odds makers consider the Gamecocks an afterthought in the SEC this season, given the program's moment in transition. If South Carolina gets to a bowl bid in Beamer's first campaign as coach, considering the Gamecocks ahead of schedule in their turnaround, the cupboard is far from bare following Will Muschamp's exit, but depth. Gamecock fans are upset with that word. We don't have any depth. You've been hearing that forever. We don't have any depth. Okay. 3.5 wins. I think I'm going to go over there. I don't think I'm too far-fetched in that. I think that they win against Eastern Illinois. The East Carolina game is going to be a shootout, but the East Carolina defense is one of the worst that the Gamecocks will see all season. Look for that game to be like 42-30 or something like that, because East Carolina can throw the ball around. They can do some stuff. But I still think South Carolina wins that game, and I like them over Vanderbilt, and I like them over Tennessee. I really do. I don't get the whole thing with the obsession with Tennessee. Up next, they've got Arkansas at 5.5. Old Sam Pittman down there telling everybody, yes, sir. Can he get them into the mix to win over 5 games? Their schedule is kind of silly. They play Texas A&M in the first 4 weeks, along with Georgia, Ole Miss, and Auburn in October. Road games with LSU and Alabama in the final month of the season. They play against Mizzou. And that matchup, they say, could determine whether or not Mr. Pittman and the Hogs get themselves to a point where they can go to a bowl game. So there's that. Arkansas playing in that SEC West schedule, not so much. Now, folks that are watching online, if you're just tuning in here and if you're listening out there, I didn't say the Gamecocks would win 3.5 games. That would be 247 Sports. That's why it's going on the bookcase of accountability. Okay? Just saying. I think the Gamecocks will win more than 3 games. I'm not going to be like some people that are on the radio, though, that are going to tell you some silly stuff about, I could see them winning 8 games. I've heard that. Someone text me about that. 9 games. Really? Better dust off your sweater vest. Come on now. Let's be realistic here. Anyway, 5.5 for Arkansas. Mississippi State, they've got the Pirate winning 6 games. Interesting. So I think that he may show some improvement. But if they're going to win 6 games, they've got to play NC State. Now, I know the SEC apologists are going to tell me, oh, that's an ACC versus SEC matchup. SEC by 75, Rob. That's just the way that it's going to be. No, NC State's going to be pretty good. Pretty good. If you're a Clemson fan, you should probably sweat that NC State game a little bit this year. Just saying. But the schedule for Mississippi State, pretty tight. LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama. There's your first 3 conference games. That's what you got. When you play in the SEC West, I'm buying that you play a tough schedule. I really do. If you're not Alabama or LSU or Texas A&M, if you're one of the other teams, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, yeah, you play a tough schedule. All right, quick break. When we come back, we'll have some more of these projected totals for you here on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Jimmy's probably right about that. Bookshelf of baloney. Mikel, I could see 6, brother. 7's a reach, man. You could have some dumpster fires that go your way, but last night's show, Randall's right. If you go back and watch last night's show, the comments from Jeremy Gooch in the chat were some of the funniest things that I've read in a long time. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I'm looking at the projections for Tennessee. Get out of here, man. Wow. Can somebody tell me what the obsession is with Tennessee? I mean, honestly, if you're not a Tennessee fan, please explain that to me. I'm going to give you a little math lesson here. Got a little math lesson for you coming up here for Tennessee because they're up next. Well, welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. SEC win projections from 247 Sports added to the bookcase of accountability, but I'm sharing them with you here this afternoon. We've already had South Carolina. They're projected at 3.5 wins. I think that's going to be wrong. Anyway, here's where we are with Tennessee. They've got them projected to win 6 games. Now, I thought I would share a little math with you here. Okay? Let me give you a little math. All right? Tennessee had 29 players because I went and looked at this morning because I was going to talk about this. I was going to talk about this on the show today because I figured the folks at 247 Sports, some great guys over there, do a lot of great work, but they always lean heavily towards the upper echelon of the SEC when it comes to things like this, and for some reason, Tennessee. Okay? I completely believe that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a math lesson. 29 players transferred out of the Tennessee program. All right, so let's think about that for a minute. Now, according to what I've read, they've had 17 players transfer in as far as players from Power 5 conferences. So you had 29 Power 5 players that left your program. You replaced them with 17 players that played at a Power 5 level. Your quarterback, one of the guys that was supposed to start for your team, decided to go and find Jesus at Liberty. Worked for Hugh Freeze. Not saying it's bad. If you want to go to Liberty, that's great. Your punter decided he didn't want to kick his senior year at Tennessee. He'd rather kick at Memphis and finish out his career there. He's probably going to get to punt a lot more at Tennessee. Just saying. But he'd rather punt at Memphis. All right, so you have all of that. But we're supposed to believe that Tennessee is going to be a team that's going to win 6 games this year. Josh Heupel is going to come in and he's going to touch the Gatorade bottles and turn them into the Monstars from the original Space Jam. They're just going to go out there and they're going to knock people over, and that's just the way it's going to be. I'm not buying that. I think that Tennessee is going to be a team that is going to have problems this season. I really, really do. And it's just a number. It's just a numbers issue. You don't have enough Power 5 players on your team. Why is it that we can talk about the Gamecocks lack depth, but Tennessee gets all of these folks that have left the program, and by my count, it's at least 12 Power 5 players that you've lost, but we're supposed to think Tennessee is better. Tennessee wasn't worth anything last year. They weren't very good last year. But we're supposed to think Tennessee's going to win 6 games. Okay. Maybe I'll be wrong. We can add this tape to the bookcase of accountability too. But I'm not. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They'll tell you, we've got all these great guys that are over there ready to play, though. We got 4 or 5-star guys that are going to play, something like that. Okay, Tennessee fans, I'm with you. We'll see what happens. Silly. For the Kentucky Wildcats, they've got them at 7 wins. Chris Rodriguez and crew, he averaged 6.6 yards a carry. Think about that. We'll look at the Tennessee wins schedule in a moment. After I go to break and pull it up here. 6.6 yards a carry, though, for Chris Rodriguez. And 247 Sports says they could challenge for number 3, perhaps number 2, in a top-heavy East if Mark Stoops' team can stay healthy. And chew on this, Kentucky will be favored in its first 4 games of the season prior to playing Florida on the road on October 2nd. In our early spring projection, we expected the projected win total to be set at least 74.5 for the Wildcats. So taking the over here feels like a solid bet. So they've got them at 7 wins, but they think that the over there is going to be the way to go. Get a quarterback, Kentucky, if you want me to take you seriously. Let's think about that. Now, I will say the Kentucky schedule is quite possibly one of the easiest Kentucky schedules you'll see. I mean, it really is. They don't leave home, I think, for until September is over, if I remember correctly. So there's that. I'm not buying the whole 9-win thing. I'm not really feeling that. Up next, they've got Mizzou. Now, before I get shelled online on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good about Mizzou should be in the SEC, all of you that have been sending that, I don't want to hear about you welcoming Texas and Oklahoma in. Lay off of all of that. So the thing with Mizzou, they have a home game against Southeast Missouri. Their schedule is kind of tough, though. They do have Connor Bazelak, who I think is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. So we shall see how that works out. Coach Eli Drinkowitz, get his name pronounced correctly. I mean, if you just watch any of this guy's stuff, as far as online, I mean, he's losing his mind getting a 3-star recruit to come to school there. That energy, you can't buy that. So we shall see. We shall definitely see that they're going to play with some spark. Remember, they went down to Florida, the whole fight down there. They're not intimidated by you. And playing up at Como is not easy. So 7 wins, I think that's about par, close to par. We shall see, though. Auburn is next on the list. They've got the Tigers projected to win 7 games. Here's what I like about Auburn. Tank Bigsby, who had came down to South Carolina and Auburn, ended up going to Auburn. He's probably going to get 1,000 yards on the ground this year. Now, if Bo Nix is the quarterback, I'm kind of worried about him, to be honest. But if Bo Nix can hand the ball off to him and make some passes, 7 wins, that might be close to right for Auburn. But I'm also worried that why did Coach Harsin, and we've talked about this before, ends up going down and, supposedly bringing the success of the Mountain West. All those great teams, the Boise State teams, we beat Oklahoma in a bowl game, those kind of games. Trying to bring some of that stuff down to the SEC. Because remember, Gus Malzahn, who went 3-5 against Nick Saban, where a lot of people don't do that, that's not good enough. We're going to pay you $20 million to leave and go coach Central Florida. Have a great day, sir. If Harsin comes in and they go 6-6 this year, he might be getting a one-way ticket back to Boise. 7 wins, interesting. interesting to say the least. All right, before we go to break here, Ole Miss. Have I got Ole Miss here? I got to check. Oh, yeah. Ole Miss, they've got at 7.5 wins. Lane Kiffin down there throwing the ball around, doing all kind of great stuff. Matt Corral, who seems like he's been there forever. We shall see. They've got Louisville, Tennessee, Liberty, and Vanderbilt. They play also Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M. 7.5. I might take the under there just because of the schedule. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back in a moment, we will look at LSU as we get closer to the top of the SEC and the projections for the Tigers from the Bayou. And we'll take calls in a little bit here on the rundown. By the way, be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. Also, blog pages up at foxsportsradio1400.com. All kinds of good football information there. Be sure to check that out. Get a lot more during the season, too. I have all kind of stuff that I post during the season. Sunday, man, I post all kinds of pro stuff, and for some reason, folks seem to love that. But anyway, check out the blog pages at foxsportsradio1400.com. More of the rundown, we come back right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I agree on Mizzou. I think Mizzou's going to be better. I wonder if he's trying to coach for another spot. Coach Drink, man. Well, you're going to play Pitt, right? Vol Stake. I think you lose that game. Who else is on your schedule? Look at the rest of these. I'm pulling up the Tennessee schedule now. I'll give you Bowling Green. I'll give you Tennessee Tech and South Alabama. There's 3. I don't know, man. South Alabama, isn't Jake Bentley playing for them? Y'all might have issues there. We'll see. Craziness. Clemson may have issues in that secondary, man, with that guy out. Just saying, you Georgia fans might get some help on that front because I doubt he's going to play. Yeah, the Tennessee schedule, you open up 3 straight at home, but we'll go over that in a moment. That's interesting. More and more I look at it. You had talent last year. Why didn't you win last year? Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. SEC projections for the upcoming season from 247 Sports. Going over some of those. They've got LSU at 8.5. And I looked this up. LSU's got 20 guys, 20 starters returning. And you can make an argument they've got one of the better quarterback rooms in the SEC. I think Miles Brennan's a great quarterback. Really do. So we'll see how that works out for them. I mean, that might be a little low. At least Coach Orgeron he did interview his assistants this year on the defensive side of the ball. He let us know that. So that's a good thing. They had some issues with that before, which is why they had like one of the worst pass defenses in the SEC last year, but they got two guys that are going to get drafted in the first couple of rounds at cornerback. LSU was just weird last year. That's the only term I can use, is weird. Can they dust off the weirdness? Let's go out to the phones, 803-978-1832, before we get to the top of them here. And welcome to the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, I have a question about the Notre Dame NBC deal.
Yeah.
Do they divide that amongst the teams they're playing, or do they get the entire thing?
No, I think they pay a portion of it to the ACC, if I remember correctly. I don't have the contract in front of me, but it's for the ACC games. They pay for a portion of that, and I'd have to look at the rest of it. So,
do you think with their new streaming programs that they're going to have to go out and try to get a college football conference to join? Because they only have the one NFL game, right?
What's that? Yeah, no, I think that the streaming is going to be big when it comes down to the realignment. I think that's going to happen. I think that eventually you're going to have some streaming service get into the mix and really make some movement there. And that's how people watch stuff nowadays,
Yeah.
I mean, you can pull it up anywhere and watch it wherever. So
yeah, they have like 20 channels that stream, and they have 4 on cable now.
Yeah, they've got Peacock. I mean, I subscribe to Peacock, and if you're watching the Olympics, Peacock's the best way to go because you can literally pick out whatever event you want and watch it. If they can give you the same thing with football, that's going to be great.
Yeah, it would be. It would seem like they would because ESPN seems to be losing money.
Yeah, but they got the mouse, man. They'll be all right.
Yeah, they'll be all right. But I was just thinking about that, with the, conference realignment, NBC doesn't have a big football presence, college or pro. This will be a chance for them to get in on it big.
The streaming thing is going to be huge, and we'll see. Yeah. I mean, I think somebody like Amazon, Yahoo, Netflix might get into the mix. Who knows?
Yeah. I stream YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube might get into the mix too. You never know, man. Somebody's going to get one of those conferences. You're right, buddy. All right, thanks, man.
Thanks.
All right, there you go. All right, before we get out of here, let's give you some of the other projected totals here. They've got LSU at 8.5. The Florida Gators, they got Florida at 9 wins. We'll have to see about that. I'm not really sold on their quarterback. I know they got DeMarcus Bowman, the former Clemson guy that was supposedly an all-world running back. Yeah. Okay, we shall see on kind of a wait and see on the Gators here. Texas A&M, they've got them at 9.5. This is kind of a show me year for the Aggies with Jimbo Fisher. First of all, I think the fan base kind of turned on Kellen Mond last year. Who's going to be their quarterback, and what's going to be the big story as far as who's under center, in my opinion. So we shall see with Texas A&M at 9.5. All right. And then up next, they've got the Georgia Bulldogs at 10.5. Georgia will have over that if they win the Clemson game. I think Georgia goes undefeated if they can win the Clemson game, in my opinion, because I think that the rest of their schedule is just not very good. I truly believe that. I don't think it's that good at all. And finally, they've got Alabama at 11.5. It's the Crimson Tide. Are they going undefeated or not? They've got a lot of, I wouldn't say it's questions, but there's a lot of changes from last year's team. But Nick Saban has talent on top of talent down there, and they are pretty strong. So we shall see with Alabama at 11.5. They do open with Miami. They've got Texas A&M, Florida on the road, and they play LSU at home. So their schedule's, interesting. Neutral site game with Miami, though, kind of takes the sting off of that. Tennessee Fan Online was asking me about the whole 6-6 thing with Tennessee. It comes down to the numbers. We talked about that. Yeah, you may have talent there, but it's depth that matters. You can't tell me who your starting quarterback's going to be. Your coaches can't either. The coaches are, if they know, they haven't let us figure that out yet. They haven't told us about it. So I looked at the Tennessee schedule. They open up 3 straight at home: Bowling Green, Pitt, and Tennessee Tech. Look, I'll give you Bowling Green and Tennessee Tech, but that Pitt team is pretty good. And, they want to make a statement in the beginning of the season there. And Pitt plays the kind of football that you're going to have to out-athlete Pitt. Coach Narduzzi sets it up where they're going to run the ball and they're going to play pretty good defense. They got a 5th-year quarterback there in Kenny Pickett. That is a tough, tough game. Then they open up 3 straight SEC games. 2 straight on the road. They go to Gainesville, which I think is going to be hard. Then they go on the road to Mizzou. Follow that by a home game with South Carolina. They play Ole Miss in Knoxville, head to Tuscaloosa, head to Lexington to play Kentucky before a home game with, a home game with Georgia and South Alabama. And then, from November 13th to the end of the season, they've got 3 straight at home. So I guess I could see that, the 2 tough road games there, and then they wrap up with 3 games at home with Georgia, South Alabama, and Vanderbilt. It's just the amount of scholarship players. That's the big thing. You're at like a negative 12. 29 left. You got 17 back. The math just doesn't work. So, but once again, look, we talk about the bookcase of accountability that's going right over here on the wall, or over here with my bookcase over there to the right. I'll put this up there too. And of course, my projections will be there as well. Stand by for those. They will be coming at you. That's going to happen too. I'm not just going to, let everybody else make predictions and not have my own. Mine will be out there. Projections will be up over there, and we'll bash me in the face at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season, because I'm going to pick my Heisman winner. I'm going to pick ACC, SEC winners. We'll put all of it together and put it over there. But some of these are really, really tough. Aaron Online says staying healthy is crucial for Tennessee. Yeah, that whole D word, depth. Got to have it. Tennessee may not have it. They're not going to have depth. It's just staying healthy. You're right, is a big deal for the Vols. Tomorrow on the program, we'll have all kinds of good stuff lined up for you. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. Podcast for this show will be up at 5:00 this afternoon. So be sure to check that out and, interact with me, especially on Twitter. Tonight, I'll be up late watching the U.S. basketball team as they take on Spain. 12:40 tonight. I'll be tweeting out about that. All right. Thanks for making the rundown a part of your day. We shall see you tomorrow. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you over there. We'll talk to you guys later on. Hey, like the video for me if you don't mind. We gather here every day at 3:00. All right. We'll see you later on, guys. Thank you so much.